we're just about to start, to Timur Khromaev. And please give a huge round of applause to Timur to start our conference.
Thank you, Lilia, and hi everybody. It's nice to be here. So can I sit or should I just stand? So it's harder to get me when I sit. So. Well, I have a pure practical reason coming here to find out what's new. I represent the regulator in the securities market. So the first thing that I want to say is disclaimer that my views and opinions don't represent the views of the Commission. So everything been said, it's said in my own opinion and nothing more. So maybe for you, just a little short overview. Securities Commission is one of the regulators in the financial markets, together with the National Bank. We provide an oversight, and we have three main kind of goals to fulfill: preservation of capital, second, efficiency, transparency, and fair market, and the third, prevention of systemic risks in the system. So three pillars of the oversight. These are the main issues that we, one way or the other, should make sure that we strive for fulfillment. With regards to the to today's topic, the blockchain and the new technology. So the new commission been around for 5 months in Ukraine. We've done our due diligence on the existing infrastructure. I won't get into much detail, where we are. I mean, we're quite far behind the rest of the world. But we're more goal-oriented, and we're very interested in applying new technology. And I think being so much backward is actually a great advantage of being able to implement the most ambitious and bullish solutions to the problems that most of the developed countries just cannot think about, because the opportunity costs are humongous. So we're really looking at the new technologies that would allow financial infrastructure of Ukraine to be plugged into the international financial system, and being able, going backwards, on the three, pillars of our oversight, being efficient, being fair, being transparent, and eliminate potential risks for the players, and provides as much added value to the real sector and raise the wealth of the nation. So looking at the whole thing, we consider that infrastructure, financial infrastructure, is one of the main issues of our work for the next couple of years, because when you trade something, in the developed market, you don't think or you don't actually, pay attention of how actually this happens. Because they do have a very developed ways of trading, communicating, and settlements in the market. In Ukraine, we unfortunately don't have that. The cost of entry are very high. So if, for instance, you would consider, investing $100 into Ukrainian exchange and immediately pulling out, you'll be, pretty much $10 lower immediately. So. In the developed market, pretty much, you come in and you come out, you're even, at the same time. And you have a chance of increasing your, the risks in Ukraine markets are very high. Yes, there is a great opportunity, but most likely you'll be hit heavily. It's a pure manipulators market. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to, as a regulator, and this is another goal, is to make sure that the manipulators and abusers are not, loose here. You cannot hide in Ukraine from oversight, in the other markets. So, as a regulator, we should establish very fluent contacts, and this is our priority for immediate future with the securities regulators in the developed markets. And in fact, our regulation is a bit different from central bankers, because the commission is more like a judge in the securities market. So the treatment of regulators is pretty much equal. Yeah? It's like a judge from another country treating a judge from another country. So the system, they really overlap. It's not like the central bank, they have their own islands of different currencies. And then they just, the monetary system and monetary policies are not, they're influencing, but in terms of the influence of the Ukrainian monetary system, it's insignificant. Yeah, usually decisions are made in Frankfurt or New York, or Tokyo. But in the regulators of the securities markets, the information flow is in a very high level and very intense. So that's how we see, and potential technologies that can be applied, in particular blockchain, we believe is a very interesting way of minimizing the cost in the infrastructure and trading and entry and exit. But we have to be careful, and we definitely see that there is additional research that has to be done. Protection of interest, clear understanding of how the demand and supply takes place. Because manipulation, it's a very big issue, to protect investors. There is no way that the trading should be anonymous for the regulator. Yeah, you might know whom you trade, but the regulator should. Because the way that abusers are hiding these days is so sophisticated that it's sometimes it's so basically the regulators, it's another application. The tools of the regulator supervise trading to make sure that we can identify those who are trying to rip people off. Yeah, it's also another area where IT has been implemented these days, and the technologies that are used are very sophisticated. So it's not only for the regulator to build proper infrastructure, financial infrastructure, and apply that technology. It's also another way of building proper tools for the oversight. Because in the financial market, it's 50% of what we do is pretty much IT. Yeah, the decisions in the economic sense, they're just they're obvious. It's more based on their conventional and on the conventional knowledge. But the IT now is another serious part. So the regulator should also have the tools for the proper oversight. For instance, in the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, there are about 3,000 employees, about 1,000 IT specialists. They have another self-regulated organization which employs 5,000 people, and it's 3,000 IT people. They use a so-called system called sonar, which identifies certain patterns, and at the same time, the same minute, brings in line different information disclosures from about dozens of thousands of sources, to see who is trading on what information, to see if people are using on insider information, or using certain trading techniques to make sure that there are vulnerable groups of investors that are really really getting ripped off. So there, this is how we look at. I don't know what else should I do, or should I say to you guys if it's still up to. I need to understand if we're on the same page or what you guys interested in.
Fantastic. So I'll jump in to make some kind of a format here. So I suggest we have a Q&A session, and it's going to last like 15 minutes if you don't mind, and then we'll go back to the normal, schedule that we have.
Sure.
Would it be cool? Okay.
Sure.
Questions? I have microphone. I saw one hand. Was there? It was. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Vlad Kogan. Question is simple. Like, how is the regulator there are multiple questions I have. How the regulator is lowering cost of entrance to the system? That's the first question. Second, is the regulator planning to do any licensing for new technology companies like Bitcoin? We know that in New York they're trying to do BitLicense and that thing is failing. So we want to know what's the Ukrainian regulator looking forward to do for this industry, and your views and whatever actions regulator will take towards blockchain, anti-money laundering, and terrorism support. How are they view, in your view, provision? How do you guys see this, and how you apply? What are you going to do to apply your rules towards the community to make sure that there's no money laundering and support of terrorism? Thank you.
Thanks a lot. You let me know if I'm not answering any questions of yours. Well, I'll try to be very, consistent. So the first one is how we lower the cost. The deterrence, the market abuse deterrence, and fighting the insider trading and the manipulation lowers the cost of capital, for lowers the risks and lowers the cost. That's on average, there's a 5% lower cost of capital if the regulator is fighting efficiently the market abuse practice. That's one. The second, deploying new technology, we can consolidate liquidity in pretty much one center. We're not talking about number of exchanges. It's a more formalistic way of looking at this. But if we are able to consolidate liquidity, there's a huge boost to the economic growth, and there is a huge way of lowering the cost of entry and the transaction costs. What blockchain and all of these supplementing technologies and solutions are, you pretty much have no cost. There is no administrative cost of trading whatever Bitcoin or whatever is going to be else out of this. And this is also a certain revolutionary industry change. So that's another thing. You should understand that the industry, we're not fighting that. We're not trying to preserve what's been. We need to make sure that what's coming out, we take the benefit of this and make sure that the market develops properly and helps us to help you. So that's two. The third, how we're licensing, or what do you
are you going to plan to implement some sort of licensing?
You're saying about Bitcoin. Now look, we're not the central bank. It's not about the currency. I'm not talking about Bitcoin in particular. Let's not run around one pole. We're not a Christmas tree. It's a technology that we need to take a look and see where we can use what. So we shouldn't just stick to one thing. We are not a central bank that would just approve a certain currency. On the other hand, what a potential way of Bitcoin is, if you look at this not in a way of like just a currency, assume that this is a stock. I had a conversation with Deutsche Börse just a couple of weeks ago, and they have such incredible infrastructure that you can trade in Hong Kong or Frankfurt or anywhere, and the settlements take place very efficiently. And I'm saying, listen, but what if somebody just comes up, this one or the other, and our phones start trading securities like, actively? What are we going to do? And they're like, well, this is just, we're on the verge of something big happening. This can just change the whole landscape of the infrastructure.
Fantastic. One more question.
So we're not licensing this or something else. We need to look at this. So we need to analyze. Yuri will be presenting you, different ways of looking at this. So our depository is taking care of the research and development. We have support from international partners on the infrastructure development. So this will be much wider, application. So something like that.
Thank you very much. One more question.
Evgeny Nemerzhitsky, Financial Studio Consultancy Company. It is very usual opinion then people confuse Bitcoin with money. And I suppose such situation exists not only in Ukraine. How you explain in other countries that Bitcoin is not a money? It's not at all a money. It's not a bank operation. It's something between money and something which helps money to circulate. Thank you.
It's a question or what? Look.
More or less a statement.
I'm not looking at the, I'm not fighting with anything. Yeah, we're not about opinions or stereotypes. This is a means of payment. Yeah, we shouldn't just. It's not a class for philosophy. Speculation. Is it a coin? Is it a money? It's a certain type of asset that people are ready to pay. Yeah. Plus, you making it a mean of payment for something else. So there is a money component into this, and that's it. Let's just speculation on that. So I don't think there is a point of going deep into this philosophical and rhetorical question. So, in fact, I think this is a great limitation if we're just sticking to this argument. Yeah, we should understand if this is an asset. So people buy Apple shares and look at the trading on the Apple. People, if you call it not the Bitcoin or for Apple share, yeah, and it becomes liquid immediately, and the trading becomes very obvious, and people understand what's behind it. I don't understand at this stage what's behind this Bitcoin. Well, yeah, I had a a certain, extra kind of overview. But fine, but I don't understand. It's not about limitation of my knowledge, but it looks like more of a gamble, and this is a different story. There is no supply and demand, clear understanding. It's not a hedging instrument, other than you just say it's a hedging in a hedge. Yeah? So it's... We have to get into this, or should we? I don't know. I think there are certain derivative ways or technological, approaches that can be used, by us. But we need to talk. We need to shoot ideas and something like that.
If there is a chance for you to ask a question to the auditory that we have here, what that would be?
What do you want from us?
Do I have any answer on this?
You're free to jump off the cliff.
You have a question.
Thank you for the talk. Which challenges do you see in the process of implementing new technologies in the stock market in Ukraine specifically?
Well, thank you for this question. It's not all about new technologies. It's about reforms. It's about everything what we're trying to do new in a new way. Because, as I said, being backward, it's a great advantage. We can really put in incredible solutions to and put them very fast. We're in the 21st century, and look, in the 90s, when existing developing markets, actually emerging markets, being established, like Poland, like Malaysia, like South Africa, which are, right now are the symbols of economic development. We have tools that are much, much better and provide us with incredible opportunities. And I think we can reach the levels of where they are much faster. But breaking the stereotypes, being very bold in opening the mind, changing and taking this, Soviet stereotypes, out of everybody, out of our consciences. So being open-minded and take the new solutions. And I think this is a huge, huge dilemma for us. I see huge resistance of the old system. And we shouldn't try to, the way we're looking at this, we shouldn't try to treat all of the, problems. We should just build a new one. Because we looked at where our market is now, and we see, by the way, so how many years it's going to take us to move from this point to point B, which is in pretty much on the same level where Poland is. By evolutionary way, it's going to take us about 50 years. Does it make sense to talk about this? I don't see a point. I don't see a point of even talking to you guys if we're saying in 50 years we're going to get to the point where Poland now today. We should talk about different things. Where we're going to be in 5 years. If we can do that, just let's put the things aside and just go ahead. So changing the way we look at it. And this not only.
We still have time for the last question, so we are ready to take it. Do we have anyone? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm coming.
You said that you don't know what is behind Bitcoin, but people would afraid of such a phrase from the specialist of Bitcoin and will be afraid of it even more than they are afraid now. You said that Bitcoin could fulfill the functions of means of payment and it could be a kind of assets. But behind assets, we understand what is behind shares and similar instruments, similar tools. Please explain a little bit more how Bitcoin could play a role of assets, your understanding.
Look, we're talking about the blockchain. That. Let's not run around just the names. Applications within the existing economic relationships. That's just he's going to be. Yes. So it looks like you guys are on the edge of this development. You're spending your precious time of looking and thinking about this. So if you kind of put your forces together with the industry, I think it's done. So. Be afraid big for us. I said not being able. High frequency trading. It's an algorithm, but there is a person behind it. Who is responsible? It's a prison. Get abuse. Are we going to put a server in the jail? If you pay for this, because credibility, that's what the issue. The reason why Ukraine market is not developing, there is no credibility, there is no trust. If there is trust, there is value and exchange of value. But one should understand that it's the people who are responsible for actions, not the service. So that's what I meant.
Thank you so much, Timur. So, big round of applause. Thank you so much for coming. So, the next speaker I want to announce is Mike Chabanyan.